The wind moved gently across the wide green field that afternoon, but nothing felt gentle inside the heart of a man who had been holding himself together for far too long. When Aaron placed the groceries on the park bench and saw his little daughter clutching her mother's hand with worry in her eyes, he felt something inside him crack. Moments earlier, a group of parents had whispered, stared, and pulled their children away, leaving an invisible wall between his family and everyone else. He wasn't prepared for what came next, his daughter turning her face upward, her small voice stumbling out the question he feared most. Why is everyone mean to us? The words hit like a blow, sharp enough to stop the air in his lungs. And in that moment, he knew the time for silence was over. If you believe in kindness, forgiveness, and second chances, please take a moment to like this video, leave a comment, share it with someone who needs it, and subscribe to the channel. Your support helps stories like this reach people who need hope. Aaron Benson had never imagined his life would unravel so quickly. Just a year earlier, he and his wife, Hope, were raising their daughter, Grace, in a small town in Oregon. Everything felt steady, then simple routines, warm mornings, and neighbors who waved as they passed. But when Hope's illness came without warning, their days turned into hospital visits and quiet prayers whispered at midnight. And one cold November morning, Aaron walked out of the hospital carrying only Grace's backpack and a weight on his shoulders he couldn't describe. Becoming a single father wasn't something he chose, it was something he inherited out of love, responsibility, and heartbreak. The months that followed were filled with adjustment, sacrifice, and confusion. Grace, only 5, didn't understand why her mother wasn't coming home. Aaron hardly understood it himself. He pushed forward anyway, working long hours at a warehouse, juggling childcare, cooking bills, and the aching silence of a house missing one voice. But he quickly learned that grief wasn't the only battle waiting for them. Rumors had a cruel way of finding broken hearts. In a close-knit town where everyone knew each other, tragedy didn't always bring compassion. Some neighbors believed Aaron had neglected his wife's health. Others whispered terrible assumptions about him disappearing from work too often or falling behind on payments. Slowly, the friendly waves turned into shuttered glances and closed doors. Grace began noticing it before he did. Children who used to play with her stopped inviting her over. Parents pretended not to see Aaron at the grocery store. When he tried joining community events to keep Grace distracted, the stares and murmurs followed. It wasn't violence. It wasn't shouting. It was something worse, quiet cruelty that made the world feel smaller every day. That day in the park, Aaron had hoped for just one peaceful afternoon. He lifted the grocery bag and sat beside Grace and her mother, Rose, Hope's older sister, who had moved in temporarily to help care for Grace. Grace leaned against her aunt, her tiny hands clutching her coat sleeves. Her eyes stayed fixed on the spot where the other children had been moments earlier. Aaron felt the heaviness of that question again. Why is everyone mean to us? He swallowed hard, trying to form an answer that wouldn't break her heart. But before he could speak, Rose placed a hand on Grace's shoulder and gave Aaron a knowing look. She understood the pain. She had seen the exhaustion in his eyes for months. It wasn't just physical. It was the weight of being misunderstood, judged, and quietly pushed aside. Aaron knew he couldn't keep pretending everything was fine. Not for Grace, not anymore. He stood and inhaled deeply, letting the cold air steady him. People could take away friendships, invitations, comfort, but they wouldn't take away his daughter's sense of worth. Something inside him began to rise, a resolve he hadn't felt since Hope was alive. Over the next weeks, Aaron made a choice that changed everything. He stopped shrinking into the background. He joined school meetings, parent groups, and community gatherings. Even when people avoided eye contact or whispered when he walked in, he volunteered at food drives, offered help to elderly neighbors, and made sure Grace felt supported everywhere she went. At first, no one responded, but Aaron wasn't doing it for them, he was doing it for Grace. To show her that kindness wasn't something you waited to receive, it was something you chose to give. One snowy December afternoon, everything shifted unexpectedly. Grace had been working on a holiday project at school. A card dedicated to her late mother, her teacher, Mrs. Harper, found her sobbing quietly at her desk because another child had made a cruel remark about her family. Instead of ignoring it, Mrs. Harper sat next to Grace, held her hand, and listened. She had heard the rumors. She had seen the way some parents treated Aaron. and she knew things weren't what they seemed. That evening, she reached out to Aaron. They talked for almost an hour. For the first time in months, someone chose to listen before judging. She saw the effort he put into raising Grace alone, the grief he hid behind tired smiles, the kindness he continued to show when the world offered him none. And without realizing it, her support became the first warm light in a long, cold season. Word began to spread, not rumors this time, but truth. People learned about Aaron's sacrifices, Rose's help, and Grace's strength. Slowly, parents who had distanced themselves started offering quiet apologies, invitations, and simple kindness. The walls built by assumptions began to crumble. But the moment that changed Aaron forever came in early spring. Grace ran into his arms after school, clutching a drawing of their little family, her dad, and her aunt with a bright sun above them. On the side, she'd written something in clumsy handwriting: "Daddy, I'm not scared anymore. We're not alone." Those words undid him in a way nothing else could. By facing the hurt instead of hiding from it, he had given Grace something no rumor, no whisper, no judgment could ever take away: security, courage, and faith. If this story touched your heart, please like the video, share it with someone who needs hope, and subscribe for more life-changing stories. Before the ending, I'd love for you to comment below. Kindness matters. In the end, Aaron learned that the world can be unkind, but it can also be changed. One brave step, one honest conversation, and one act of compassion at a time. And sometimes all it takes is a single father choosing not to give up, even when everyone else turns away.